Well, hello, everybody. We were listening to all of the presentations and the trials, and what I was thinking is that there are common things that we see in trials and cross-examinations that we have to react to. And usually, we see them in every trial. So let me start out with the first one. We talked about this. What do you think about the old adage that you should never ask a question you don't know the answer to?
So I'll comment on that, but that's going to be me asking you a lot of these questions because, frankly, the folks here want to hear from a trial practitioner like you. But to me, I think that's largely true. I've certainly seen people get in trouble without knowing the answer to a question. But I do think at times it can let people miss obvious openings. In other words, you might get an unexpected answer, or a witness expounds on something, and I've seen this in depositions too, where people are just so scripted and so locked into what they think they want to do that somebody's given them a softball, that there's really very little danger, but they can't really adapt to it because they're not quite sure whether that answer is going to be the perfect answer. So I absolutely think, and I'd invite the judge to weigh in on this, I think that adage is true in my experience, but you have to have room to react to what you're being given. And I have seen people miss opportunities because they just seem so locked in and rigid in their outline, or I want a yes or a no, and they're cutting the witness off who's actually helping them by getting emotional or doing whatever is showing that their anger comes through or whatever it may be.
Well, I kind of really don't believe in that rule. I believe in that rule when it comes to a question that is going to control the entire case that you don't know the answer to and you don't know what the witness is going to say. But the primary thing that I think we need to remember is that we can ask questions where no matter what the answer is, it's a bad answer for the witness. You don't know what they're going to say, but you've narrowed it down in your preparation so that you truly understand that whatever that witness says, you're going to bury him or her with it. And that's the enforcing that rule on yourself of not asking questions you don't know the answer to. You know, I think you do ask questions you don't know the answer to when you know how to take that witness from whatever answer he gives up to the point where you know that he's going to give you or she is going to give you what you want.
And so related to that, what do you do when you get the answer you like? There's different schools of thought on that. I remember reading a book by F. Lee Bailey long ago on cross-examination, and I think one of his techniques was to leave the answer alone and then come back to it later, because it didn't give the witness time to immediately react and recant. You know, if they came back to it 10 minutes later and he said, 10 minutes ago you said X, it was much harder for them to backtrack. Other people I've seen pounce on it, others leave it alone. So what's your thoughts on that?
Well, it drives me crazy when I watch, we have a chance to watch other people trying cases, even when we're with them, co-counsel, where they get a great answer and then they proceed to ask a question or do something that causes the witness to understand how they had just screwed up and change the answer right there. So I think the best thing you can do is get some distance between that good answer and the end of the examination. And so if you feel that it's really a strong point, and we have a court reporter that's taking it down, and you listen, and the witness gives you a yes answer to a question that's really important to you, I think that what you want to do is let it go. Let it go, move on. You may have a situation where later on they try to redirect or recross or whatever, but the bottom line is that I think that you leave the answer. Don't give the witness a chance to change it, and don't ask questions during the course of the rest of your examination that gives that person now that's thought it out and said, oh, shoot, that was a bad answer. Don't give them a chance to come back and rehab themselves.
So same question, let's assume it's not a yes or no answer, but now you just got an answer you don't like. What are you doing with that?
Well, when you get an answer you don't like, you have a couple of options. The first thing is, when you get that kind of answer, presumably you know the case so well that you can take that answer and really cross-examine on the answer that you've just been given. So what you want to do is, in a truly bad answer that you can't do anything about, you move on. And one of the things that I think everybody knows, and if you don't, I'll tell you, the jury is looking at you to get a read on what the answers are to the questions that you're giving. So if you don't react, as we saw this, here with the dancing and all the lights out and all that kind of stuff, if you don't react, a lot of times the jury doesn't even know that it was a bad answer. And so sometimes the best thing to do is you don't want to dwell on it. If you can cross-examine your way out of it, then you do that. But otherwise, I think you move on and figure out a way to deal with it at some other point.
And we saw a couple of different approaches a minute ago, but one of them was the tried and true, I want a yes or no answer to my questions. A, do you like that? Does it depend? And B, what do you think about pacing when you're doing that?
Well, Judge Medina, I know that, this is something that each individual court has a different way of handling, but I think that you have to know your judge and figure out whether or not, if the witness is volunteering information in a question, if you object and ask for the judge to get a yes or no answer, the judge will or won't do it. I think that you take that, especially with lay witnesses, I think that you have some real problems cutting them off. And so sometimes you have to wait a little bit until you have a couple of times where they've clearly gone beyond, and then the judge starts to become impatient. I mean, I've seen judges that I didn't even have to object, that have looked over at the witness and said, listen, that's not the question you were asked, please answer it, because they want to get through the examination. So, but I do think that if you have a sympathetic witness or somebody that's, the jury is going to like, and you cut them off or try to cut them off, I think that's generally a mistake. Until such point where it becomes to the point where the judge is going to say, answer the question, please. What do you think, Judge?
I think that's great advice. Know your judge, certainly know your witness. And sometimes just making eye contact with the judge when there's a long, verbose answer that requires a yes or no. If the judge gets it, jury's getting tired, they want to cut to the chase and answer the question.
Great. Another question I had for you, silence. Can you use it as a weapon? In other words, when you're pacing your questions, obviously if you're getting staccato answers, you're moving along, but there is a natural tendency of people, certainly use it a lot at depositions myself, to want to fill in a silence. So if they give an answer, I found certainly, again, at depositions, and you wait, sometimes they just suddenly want to explain a little bit more, and you're off to the races again. So during a cross-examination, is that a technique you can use, or is that really not good for that?
I think if what you've gotten from the witness is devastating, and always, what are we trying to do in cross-examination? We're trying to get that answer that is so bad for the witness that, it sort of puts the witness where you want him or her to be. So when you get that answer and it's really bad, I think you got to stop and let it sink in for the jury. One of the things that jurors always tell me at the end of trials is that we move too fast in some ways, especially when we have exhibits and we're moving through them. They always say, listen, you put it up on the board, and then 2 seconds later you took it down. I can't handle it that fast. So that's the same thing, I think, with an answer that you get which is truly, truly bad for the witness. Give the jurors time to let it sink in. And that, I think it can be very effective. I think that in depositions, if you're getting an answer that you want, you don't want to pause and look at your notes. You want to keep going, because you don't want that person, once again, to get the feeling that, hey, I screwed up. Let me correct that. Let me correct that now. You'll get that after the break. They'll come back and try to correct it. But it looks much better on videotape if they answer the question and you move on.
And how about any of these questions? Is there a difference in your approach in cross-examination if it's a bench trial versus a jury trial?
Definitely. I mean, I think that, once again, Judge Medina, you can tell us what you think. I would like you to. But my thought is that, some of the judges' trials that we have, we've really pre-educated the judges to many of the issues. And so the cross-examinations that we might do with respect to, things about the witness that a jury might be very interested in, but the judge would say, yeah, come on, let's move on. So I think that with a judge trial, you do want to get right to the point, and you don't want to go through the fluff that maybe you need to use respectfully with respect to jurors that they want a little bit of drama, a little bit of human interest. A lot of times judges want to hear what the witness has to say, and let's get on with it. What do you think, Judge?
That's good advice. Know your judge. It's like you have to know the jury, but in a bench trial, judge presumably has read everything, read all of your pleadings, has made rulings on pretrial motions, and is ready to get to the facts and the evidence and get to a decision.
And we're going to wrap up, but one more question. If you were going to prep a witness for cross-examination, what would be the 2 or 3 things that you would say are the most important instructions you could give them?
Well, I think for cross-examination, the real key is the witness is going to get questions that you've already asked. So I think the witnesses sometimes, you think that they can fill in based upon their knowledge, what they know about the case, but really what you need to do is make sure that all the tough cross-examination questions are asked and they have the confidence to give an answer that they've already given to you.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I hope this was
Thank you.
instructive. Thank you all.
I just wanted to say just one quick thing. As to Peter, I want to say, Peter, thank you very much for doing this. You're a showman, but you have a heart. And I think for all of us, you know, the concept that there's a lot of people out there that need our help is very, very important. And there's a lot of kids at Children's Hospital in Philadelphia that need our help. There are people on the streets of this country that need our help. And so I want to propose that the amount of money that we're going to give to this Children's Hospital goes up to $25,000, because I'm going to commit my own money for $5,000 of that to increase the contribution that we're going to make.
That's really great. Thank you.
And
Amen to that. Hallelujah. Thank you.
And I would like to ask anybody that feels good about that, feels good about contributing some money to up that number to Children's Hospital, to do it. You know, we owe it to give back to society. We've all done well. The reason we're here is because we've done well, and to do well, you need to do some good. So that's my request.
Awesome.
Oh, man. Thank you, James. Thank you so much. Thank you. Very generous. Thank you. Thank you.